Chapter 1: Why Visual Identity Now Dominates Music. Music used to travel ahead of the artist. A voice on the radio, a hook on a CD, a chorus overheard at a party. Sound arrived first. The face, the outfit, the world building arrived later, often as confirmation. You sought the image because you already liked the music. Today, for many listeners, the sequence has inverted. The artist arrives as a picture before they arrive as a song. A thumbnail, a looped clip, a stage photo, a fic check, an edit, a meme. In a feed-driven environment, visuals are no longer supporting materials. They are the first interface between artist and audience, and in many contexts they are the deciding factor in whether the music is even auditioned. This chapter establishes the book's thesis. In modern music, especially for artists rising after 2015, visual identity is not decoration. It is a system that drives discovery, recognition, and retention. The most influential contemporary artists succeed not only by releasing songs, but by deploying identity systems that can be understood at a glance, scaled across platforms, and repeated without becoming repetitive. To make that claim useful, not generic, we need specificity. What exactly is a visual identity system? Why did the acceleration happen after 2015? How does a still image communicate genre, persona, and value proposition? What does it mean to be recognizable in under a second? By the end of this chapter, you'll have working definitions and a practical lens for analyzing the 150 artists in the Atlas portion of the book, and for constructing your own identity with intention. The inversion, from audio first to feed first. Modern platforms do not distribute music as music. They distribute it as content units. Tiles, cards, clips, previews, thumbnails, snippets, captions, and templates. The song is frequently embedded inside a visual container. That container is where competition happens. In a feed, you are rarely competing against other songs alone. You are competing against a comedian's punchline, a friend's vacation, a breaking news clip, a makeup tutorial, a sports highlight, and 100 other micro-stories, each packaged for instant comprehension. In that environment, sound is powerful but often arrives too late. Before audio can persuade, the image must win permission for the audio to play. This is the pivot from audio first to feed first. Audio first era logic. The listener hears, likes, seeks identity. Feed first era logic. The viewer sees, pauses, samples audio, decides identity relevance, possibly becomes a listener. Even when audio is technically on, the brain's first pass is frequently visual. Humans are optimized to scan for faces, silhouettes, movement, threat, status cues, and novelty. The feed exploits that scanning reflex. So, the question becomes less, is the song good? Many songs are good. And more, can this artist be understood instantly, remembered easily, and searched repeatedly? Visual identity is the primary tool for achieving that. The abundance problem. Streaming made sound cheaper than attention. Streaming did two things at once. 1, it made music more available than ever. 2, it made any single track easier to replace than ever. When access becomes frictionless, the value shifts away from possession and toward selection. The listener's scarce resource is not money or shelf space, it's attention. In an abundance environment, differentiation is the central business problem. Sound alone can differentiate, but it takes time. You need seconds to register a voice, a melody, a lyrical stance. Visual identity differentiates faster. This is why modern music success often looks like this. A song breaks because a visual format makes it legible. A dance, a look, a meme template, a scene. The artist gains followers because their identity is coherent enough to revisit. The catalog benefits because the identity becomes a navigation system. Audiences explore the person, then the music. In other words, visual identity is not only marketing, it becomes the indexing layer for the artist's entire output. Defining the visual identity system, not just outfits. If visual identity were only clothes, it would be easy to copy and easy to exhaust. But the top post-2015 artists don't rely on single looks. They rely on systems. Repeatable rules that generate infinite variations while staying recognizable. A visual identity system in modern music is the integrated set of cues that consistently communicates who the artist is, persona, attitude, emotional temperature, what world they belong to, genre codes, cultural references, subculture, what kind of experience they offer, fantasy, intimacy, rebellion, glamour, minimalism, how they should be consumed, party, solitude, spectacle, devotion, irony. It usually includes 4 primary components which this book will return to repeatedly. Silhouette, the fastest cue. Silhouette is the outline that can be recognized even when the image is low resolution or backlit. Oversized versus body hugging. Sharp tailoring versus drape. Masked versus exposed face. Hair shape, shoulder width, boot height, hat geometry. These are not superficial. They are recognition architecture. Color, the mood in one glance. Color acts as emotional shorthand and can become a signature across album cycles, stage design, and social content. High saturation palettes read as extroverted and pop-forward. Monochrome reads as controlled and iconic. Earth tones signal grounded authenticity. Neon signals futurism or nightlife. A coherent color strategy creates continuity, even when outfits change. Persona, the readable character. Persona is the role the artist appears to inhabit, sometimes aligned with their private self, sometimes deliberately exaggerated. The key is not whether it is real, but whether it is legible and repeatable. Persona is expressed through facial expression, posture, captions, interview style, and the boundaries of what the artist shares. Movement, the loopable behavior. Movement is the identity in time, the dance, the gesture, the walk, the mic technique, the way they hold still, the choreography style, the camera proximity they prefer. Movement becomes critical in short-form video, where a visual hook must survive repetition. Together, these elements form a system that can scale across thumbnails, tour visuals, music videos, red carpets, fan edits, merch, brand partnerships, memes, and templates. A system is what makes an artist recognizable, even when the audience sees them for half a second, on a small screen, without context. The 1-second test. Recognition under compression. Modern identity is forged under compression. A radio-era listener might hear a track for 20 seconds before deciding they care. A feed-era viewer may give a post less than a second before scrolling. In that fraction of time, the brain runs a silent checklist. Do I recognize this person? Do I recognize what type they are? Is this from my taste identity? Is there a novelty reward here? Is this socially valuable to share? This is why contemporary visual identity systems aim for instant readability. They do not require an explanation. They communicate via cues that work even when the audio is muted, the clip is cropped, the image is low quality, the context is missing, the viewer is half distracted. This environment creates a new metric we'll use throughout the book. Visual recall latency. Visual recall latency is the time it takes for a viewer to identify an artist, or at least correctly classify their archetype, from a partial visual cue. Low visual recall latency means the artist is recognized immediately: silhouette, hair, mask, color scheme, pose. Fans can spot them in edits and thumbnails. Casual viewers can remember them later, the one with the and search. High visual recall latency means the artist may be talented, but visually generic. Discovery becomes harder because nothing anchors memory. Virality is harder to sustain because the look doesn't stick. This is not about fashionability. It is about cognitive efficiency. Why? Post-2015. The acceleration drivers. Visual identity has always mattered in music. Icons existed long before the internet. What changed after 2015 is the speed, scale, and mechanism by which identity is judged and spread. 3 forces amplified visuals into the dominant layer. Algorithms reward recognizability. Algorithmic feeds reward content that triggers instant engagement, stops, rewatches, shares, comments. Visual identity contributes directly to all of those behaviors. Recognizable artists earn faster stop power. Clear personas invite commentary. I love when they do this. This era, this look. Strong silhouettes and color cues improve performance in thumbnails and previews. The algorithm does not understand artistry. It measures reactions. Visual identity is the fastest way to provoke a reaction at scale. Short-form video turned identity into a loop. A loop is not just a clip that repeats. It's a behavior that survives repetition without becoming boring. That demands a visual hook, a gesture, a stare, a styling element, a character choice. Short-form platforms trained audiences to consume music as moments. A chorus with a pose, a bar with a facial expression, a beat drop with a lighting shift, a lyric with a costume reveal. When songs become moments, identity becomes the container that makes the moment recognizable and replicable. Global fandom increased the need for nonverbal readability. Post-2015 music culture is more globally networked. Artists break across language boundaries faster, and fans participate through visuals, edits, outfit breakdowns, reaction videos, dance covers, fan cams, memes. Visual systems travel across cultures more easily than lyrical nuance. A silhouette reads internationally, a color world reads internationally, a character reads internationally. Visual identity becomes a universal interface that helps global audiences immediately understand what kind of artist they're encountering. Microanalysis: how a still image communicates genre plus persona. To see how the system works, imagine you encounter a still image with no sound and no caption. Within a second, you infer genre, status, and emotional promise. How? A still image communicates through stacked signals. 1. Production value signals, status and intention. Lighting, lens choice, styling precision, and art direction tell you whether the artist is positioned as DIY, intimate underground, premium, high fashion, major label polished, conceptual, art school, experimental. This is not merely budget. It's a decision about distance. Are we close to the real person, or are we entering a constructed world? 2. Subculture signals, where they belong. Boot shape, jewelry language, typography, makeup references, hair treatment, and body styling point towards subcultures. Streetwear codes, couture codes, punk codes, rave codes, regional codes. Even when artists blend genres, they often anchor the image in one or two readable codes, so the audience has a place to file them. 3. Persona signals, how they want to be felt. Direct eye contact versus obscured eyes. Smirk versus blankness. Aggressive stance versus soft posture. Exposure versus concealment. The body answers, are you invited close or kept at a distance? A persona can be loud without being open and intimate without being revealing. Visual identity controls that boundary. 4. Era signals. What phase are we in? Hair changes, color shifts, recurring props, and repeating silhouettes let audiences label time. This is crucial for modern fandom, which organizes memory through eras. An era is not only an album cycle, it is a visual chapter. This is the mechanism by which images become navigational aids. They help fans remember, categorize, and discuss. Discussion becomes engagement. Engagement becomes distribution. Case snapshots. Pre-2010 versus post-2015 identity dynamics. The goal here isn't to claim that older artists lacked strong visuals. They often pioneered them. The point is that the default consumption environment changed. In the pre-2010 mass media model, you could build fame with audio momentum and periodic visual punctuation, album covers, TV appearances, music video drops. In the post-2015 model, the artist lives inside a visual feed every day. Below are 3 short snapshots that demonstrate different post-2015 strategies. They are intentionally framed as identity mechanics rather than biographies. Snapshot 1. The minimal icon strategy, controlled scarcity. Some of the most influential modern artists use a minimal visual system, limited palette, restrained silhouettes, few facial tells, and a controlled media presence. The effect is not absence, it's discipline. Visual recall latency stays low because the cues are consistent. Scarcity increases fan projection. The audience fills gaps with myth. The identity scales easily to thumbnails because it relies on high-contrast simplicity. In a feed economy overloaded with maximalism, minimalism can read as power. It signals that the artist does not need constant novelty to hold attention. They are the anchor. Snapshot 2. The chameleon strategy, high-velocity reinvention. Other modern stars operate as era machines, rapid dramatic visual shifts that remain coherent because the underlying system is strong, recurring attitude, consistent charisma, a stable center even when outfits flip. Reinvention generates news cycles and social conversation. New era, new look. Fans participate by decoding references and predicting shifts. The artist becomes a platform for fashion, makeup, and visual culture, expanding beyond music. The risk is incoherence. The solution is a system beneath the change, a recurring silhouette logic, a consistent emotional temperature, or a recognizable face pose strategy that persists across reinventions. Snapshot 3. The character builder strategy, industrialized identity. A defining post-2015 phenomenon is the rise of team-scaled identity, where visual systems are engineered to be consistent across a group or across a large content pipeline. Hair, color, styling, choreography, and graphic design are coordinated. The system is modular. Each member participant has a distinct sub-identity inside a unified brand. Identity becomes content infrastructure. Photos, clips, behind the scenes, performances, merch, all visually synchronized. This approach thrives in global fandom ecosystems because it provides endless material for edits and analysis while staying legible for newcomers. Each snapshot represents a different solution to the same problem: how to be instantly recognizable and endlessly revisitable. Visual identity as a compression algorithm for personality. In modern music, personality is not just who you are. It's what can be perceived quickly and consistently by millions of strangers. Visual identity functions as a compression algorithm. It reduces a complex human into a set of signals that can travel through small screens, small moments, and crowded contexts without losing meaning. Compression doesn't mean fake, it means selective. A good compression algorithm keeps what matters and discards noise. For artists, that means deciding which traits are core: tender, confrontational, playful, aloof, surreal, romantic, nihilistic, devotional. Which contradictions are productive: soft voice plus hard silhouette, glamorous styling plus deadpan affect. Which details repeat: a type of eyewear, a hair shape, a stance, a color, a symbol. The result is an identity that is recognizable fast, repeatable, consistent, expandable, able to grow with success. A weak identity either fails to compress, too many mixed signals, or compresses into a cliché, too generic to own. The new performance surface, stage, social, and streaming all demand different versions. Streaming surfaces, covers, thumbnails, playlist tiles. These surfaces demand legibility at tiny scale. The face, the silhouette, and the contrast matter more than detail. A visually complex outfit may not read. A single bold shape might. This is where color strategy and silhouette strategy become business tools. A consistent cover language increases catalog recognition and playlist performance because the audience can quickly connect releases to the artist. Social surfaces, stories, posts, loops, behind the scenes. Social surfaces reward intimacy, frequency, and continuity. Here, the identity system must be livable. It can't only exist in high production shoots. The artist needs a version of the identity that survives. Poor lighting, casual settings, repeated posting, humor, and spontaneity. Many modern careers collapse at this layer. An artist looks iconic in official materials, but visually disappears in daily content. The solution is not constant styling, it's designing a system with a clear baseline: hair, palette, accessories, framing habits, posture, so casual still reads as them. Stage surfaces, distance, motion, spectacle. Stage identity must read from far away and in motion. This is where silhouette, movement, and light interaction dominate. Stage outfits are not just fashion, they are performance tools. They shape how the body looks while moving and how the audience perceives presence. In the post-2015 world, stage moments also become social content. The stage is not separate from the feed, it feeds the feed. A stage look must work both live and as a 9:16 clip. Why genre produces different visual archetypes? Genres are not only sonic traditions, they are visual languages with embedded values. Some genres reward polish and spectacle. Some reward intimacy and understatement. Some reward coded references that signal belonging. Some reward confrontation, wealth display, or surreal myth-making. As a result, artists often cluster into visual archetypes that audiences can quickly decode. This book will map those archetypes systematically across the 150 Artist Atlas, showing how each genre tends to generate its own identity solutions. The point is not to reduce artists to categories. The point is to understand the constraints and opportunities each genre inherits, so creators can choose whether to comply, subvert, or hybridize. The business outcome. Visual identity drives three core metrics. Visual identity dominance isn't philosophical, it's measurable in outcomes. Strong systems tend to improve three modern career metrics. Discovery, getting the first click. A compelling thumbnail, a recognizable silhouette, a distinctive face hairstyling, or a powerful still can trigger the pause that leads to a listen. In a feed, the image is the door. Recognition, being remembered and searched. If a viewer likes a clip but can't remember the artist, you lose compounding growth. A low visual recall latency increases the chance that a casual viewer becomes a repeat viewer. Recognition is why symbols, recurring colors, consistent framing, and signature silhouettes matter. They are memory anchors. Retention, turning attention into fandom. Fandom forms when audiences feel they can track an artist, follow eras, decode references, recognize motifs, participate through edits and looks. A coherent visual system gives fans a language to talk about you, without needing to describe the music in technical terms. Retention is also where fashion becomes more than styling, it becomes a ritual. This era, that look, the hair, the mask, the color. These are not side conversations, they are engagement engines. The trap to avoid branding as a shallow costume. Because visual identity is now so important, it's easy to overcorrect, treating image as a costume that can be purchased, pasted on, and swapped weekly. That approach fails for two reasons. 1. Audiences detect incoherence quickly. In a feed environment, people see you often. A look that doesn't match behavior, voice, or narrative produces friction. Friction slows growth. 2. A costume doesn't scale. A system scales. A single outfit can go viral once. It can't carry a career across albums, tours, interviews, and daily posting. This book does not argue for artificiality. It argues for design. The deliberate shaping of what you already are, or want to become, into signals that survive modern distribution. The promise of this book: an atlas plus a framework. This chapter has made a claim. Visual identity now dominates modern music because the listener's first encounter is often visual. The competition is attention, and algorithms reward instant recognition. The rest of the book will prove and operationalize that claim in two ways. The 150 Artist Atlas. Part 2 is a systematic analysis of 150 globally influential artists who rose to prominence after 2015. The atlas will decode how their identity systems work across silhouette and styling logic, color and graphic language, persona construction and boundary setting, movement, choreography, and performance design, platform scaling, streaming, social, stage. Rather than best-dressed commentary, the atlas reads like design analysis: what the system is, why it works, and what constraints it solves. The framework application. Parts I, 3, 4, and 5 build a practical framework for creators: archetypes, identity system components, platform-specific compression, and common mistakes. The goal is not imitation, it's clarity. You will be able to answer: what is my core identity, and what must remain consistent? What can change each era without breaking recognition? What is my silhouette strategy, my color strategy, my movement strategy? How does my identity compress into a thumbnail, a 7-second loop, a stage moment? How do I design for global readability without becoming generic? Closing. The new default is visual. The modern artist does not release music into a vacuum. They release it into a crowded, scrolling, algorithmic environment that judges in milliseconds. In that environment, the visual layer is not optional and not secondary. It is the first language of attention. When visual identity is treated as a system, silhouette, color, persona, movement, it becomes a competitive advantage that compounds. It improves discovery, accelerates recognition, and deepens retention. It also gives artists something more durable than a hit: